The plane that killed Carole Lombard should never have crashed. The pilot flew 7 miles off course into restricted airspace. Military passengers were bumped at the last minute. Fuel tanks weren't filled, and wartime blackouts had shut down navigation beacons. Yet one overlooked eyewitness account points to a different truth about that cold January night. Born Jane Alice Peters on October 6, 1908, in Fort Wayne, Indiana, she was the youngest child in a prosperous family. Her grandfather co-founded a major manufacturing firm, and the Peters household felt secure until the 1913 floods, when 11 inches of rain devastated the city. The rescue effort and the trauma watching so many lose their homes left a deep mark on the 4-year-old. By 1914, her parents separated, and her mother moved the family to Los Angeles. Jane grew into a fearless, athletic tomboy, running, swimming, and playing baseball. In 1921, director Alan Dwan spotted her during a game and gave her a small part. That taste of the camera set her on a relentless climb. At 16, she signed with Fox for $75 a week and, at the studio's suggestion, became Carole Lombard. Early roles were lightweight, simpering in westerns, appearing in comedy shorts and bathing beauty reels that paid little and demanded humiliation. But those cheap parts taught her physical timing and resilience, and taught Carole how to hide and work around the scar from a brutal 1927 car crash that left 14 stitches across her face. The scar changed how she used the camera. She learned lighting angles and presence, turning a perceived weakness into on-screen intelligence. Critics still box her as a blonditz, but she kept pushing. By the late 1920s and early 1930s, she moved beyond bit parts, landing sharper, faster comic roles, and proving she could carry smart, rapid dialogue. Her personal life was as public as her career. She married William Powell in 1931. They divorced 2 years later, but remained friends and later co-starred. In 1934, the shocking death of her boyfriend, singer Russ Columbo, hit her hard. Grief followed her into work, but didn't stop her rise. Paramount slowly noticed her range. After turning down It Happened One Night for Bolero, a costly choice that lost her an Oscar opportunity, she kept refining her voice. Howard Hawks spotted her rawness at a party and cast her in 20th Century, where she transformed from artifice into a fully realized comic force. Critics claimed it was like watching someone reborn. By 1936, my man Godfrey earned her an Oscar nomination and established her as more than a charming starlet. Her salary soared. By 1937, she was among Hollywood's highest-paid stars. She and Clark Gable bought a ranch and lived with the offhand, hard-won comfort of people who preferred life over image. Then the plane. On a dark January night, a flight that should have been routine ended with Hollywood's brightest star dead. Many factors made the flight risky. Navigational blackouts, odd passenger lists, limited fuel. But the witness who saw something in the moments before impact suggests investigators missed a crucial lead. The evidence, it turns out, was never far away. Carole Lombard's story is more than starlets and scandals. It's a portrait of a woman who turned setbacks into craft, who survived public judgment and private pain, and who reached the top of an industry that often misunderstands talent. Her life burned bright and brief. And the one overlooked account from that final night forces us to look again at how she died and why her story still matters. But in 1938, she stumbled. Fools for Scandal, her lone Warner Brothers picture, failed with audiences and critics. Even she admitted the film was bad, and the only compliment she heard was that she looked good. In 1939, she rebounded with N&O Cary Grant, playing a widow in love with a married man. It was a modest hit, earned her $150,000, and showed critics a deeper, more serious side. That year she and Clark Gable eloped. They'd first worked together in 1932 on No Man of Her Own, with little chemistry. Everything changed at the Mayfair Ball in January 1936. She was 27, he 34. They danced, laughed, and from that night, rarely spent more than a few days apart. They married in Kingman, Arizona on March 29, 1939. She kept pushing her range. In 1939, she starred opposite James Stewart in Made for Each Other, a Depression-era drama that underperformed but showcased her dramatic reach. In 1940, she chose Vigil in the Night, a dark nursing drama she took instead of comedy because she wanted an Oscar. She didn't win, but she gave it everything. That year, she also appeared in They Knew What They Wanted opposite Charles Hilton, a film later mired by rights issues. Still, Lombard kept taking risks. She could be playful, too. On the first day of shooting Mr. and Mrs. Smith with Alfred Hitchcock in 1941, she brought 3 cows labeled with cast names as a joke about Hitchcock's actors are cattle remark. She even staged his cameo. Her biggest risk came in To Be or Not to Be, a daring wartime satire set in Nazi-occupied Warsaw. She called it the happiest experience of her career. On March 29, 1939, they eloped quietly in Kingman. Carole wore a dove-gray flannel suit and cried through the small ceremony. They returned home in the early morning and posed for reporters a few hours later. They settled on a 20-acre ranch in Encino she bought from Raoul Walsh. Rustic decor, a white marble bathroom, 9 bedrooms. They kept a low, domestic life. Chickens, citrus trees, horses, and quiet dinners. They called each other Ma and Pa. But pain followed. Carole wanted children. After the wedding, she suffered a miscarriage following horseback riding and was operated on August 5th. Rumors of adoption swirled as she and Clark insisted they wanted a child of their own. In 1940, she slowed her career to try to get pregnant. She filled the ranch with animals for comfort. In December 1940, they sought treatment at Johns Hopkins. Carole had surgery by Dr. Richard W. Tind. Clark underwent jaw surgery on January 1st, 1941. They visited the governor and the Naval Academy and donated chocolate to a children's hospital before leaving. After Pearl Harbor, Carole pushed Clark to support the war effort. When he wasn't ready for public duties, she took the lead. On January 15, 1942, she raised over $2 million on a war bond tour in Indianapolis. For times her quota, singing and signing for 12,000 people. Shortly afterward, she insisted on flying home. Despite friends' fears and offers to give up seats, she refused to surrender hers. TWA Flight 3 departed after a refuel stop in Las Vegas on the evening of January 16, 1942. Wartime blackout rules left few beacons. The pilot veered off course and the DC-3 struck Potosi Mountain at 7,770 feet, only 80 foot shy of the summit. All 22 aboard died. Searchers reached the wreck the next morning. Carole's body was identified by a wisp of unburned hair and a single diamond earring. Her wedding ring was never found. Gable flew to Las Vegas, broken. He tried to join rescue efforts and later attempted to climb the mountain himself before being restrained. He kept the last charred ruby from her earring and wore it always. Her funeral on January 21st, 1942 at Forest Lawn followed her wishes. Only 46 guests attended. President Roosevelt sent a telegram calling her a star the nation would never forget. Grief consumed Gable. He stopped eating, drank heavily, lost weight, and watched her films on projectors she'd given him. When MGM resisted his enlistment, he forced his way into uniform and flew combat missions from May to September 1943. 2 years after a bond tour, the SS Carole Lombard was launched. Her final film, To Be or Not to Be, was released 2 months after her death and later preserved in the National Film Registry. In 1999, the American Film Institute ranked Carole Lombard among the top screen legends. Clark Gable died November 16th, 1960, and was buried beside Carole in the crypt he'd reserved for her. He never stopped wearing the locket with her hair in ruby, nor speaking of her with reverent tenderness. She remained the last person he chose to rest beside.